Now, if we take a look at our code here, there still is some code duplication to be found. Especially here, we are of course still calling essentially the same code for both userNode and todo. Essentially, we're calling the display method and then the saveData method. And then of course we handle the potential error. So we could of course try to add another function here that could be called outputData, which should call saveData and also display, so that we output the data on the screen in the command line with help of display, and we output it on the file system with help of saveData. For that, I still want to get some data here, and then in outputData, call saveData and forward that data to this saveData function. But before I do that, I want to call data.display. And of course, at the moment, this doesn't work because I haven't set a type here. Now again, just as before, I don't want to set the type to todo or node because it should work for both. I also can't use the saver interface though, because that only works for the saveData function, and hence this error here is gone, but it does not guarantee that there will be a display method. So of course, as a solution, we can build a new interface. Now we could name it displayer and add a display method here, which should take no arguments in this case here, and which shouldn't return any value. So it's really simple and straightforward. And now we could use this displayer interface down here. But if we do that, we get an error here regarding saveData. Because of course now Go correctly sees that this data is not guaranteed to have a save method. It's not of type saver, therefore we can't pass it to saveData. So in the end, we need the combination of these two interfaces. Now for that, we could build a new interface, which we name outputable. And I'm not using this ER naming convention anymore, because here I want to have a save method and this display method. And if you have more than one method in your interface, you can name this interface whatever you want, though you will often see this convention here where you try to describe the key characteristics of the type you want to enforce with this interface, so that the type should be outputable in this case. And with this new type added, we can use that down here, and voila, it works. But there is a better alternative. Instead of copy and pasting these two methods, we can instead create an embedded interface, just as we could create embedded structs. I'll use the same name, but now instead of using these methods here, I'll use the interface names, saver and displayer. And technically, since we never use the displayer interface standalone, we could also comment this out and instead embed saver and in addition add the display method. So this is also possible. You can create an interface that just embeds other interfaces as we just had it, or you create an interface that contains a method and also embeds some other interface. And again, you can add as many methods with any kind of signatures, so any kind of parameters and return values as you need to this interface. But in addition, you can also embed an existing interface. And that will simply tell Go that any value of this type, of the outputable type, must have all the methods of the saver interface, because we're embedding saver, and in addition, it also must have a display method. And therefore, we can again use outputable down here on outputData to tell Go that we'll get some data that has a display method and a save method. Well, and now with that, we can of course simplify our code again. And we can, for example, simply call outputData and pass our todo to outputData. And todo does implement the outputable interface because it has the save method, we saw that before, and it has a display method. We can see that here in the todo.go file. And it is a method that takes no input and returns nothing. So it meets this definition. And the same is of course the case for Note. There we also have such a display method. And therefore we can of course also call output data here and pass our user node to it. Now, since save data may generate an error, I actually want to return the return value of save data here in output data. And that return value will be an error. So I'll set this as a return value on output data as well. And that of course means that we should also accept this error here and still handle it in the main function so that we can return. Though, as mentioned before here, after calling output data on user node, we don't really need to do that because the program would end thereafter anyways. So here we can just call it like this if we want to. Well, and with that, we were able to outsource a lot of code with help of interfaces. Now, also with help of embedded interfaces.